Hello, I'm Krishna Vaugh from Department of Sociology, KTHM College, and today I will be conducting this lecture on how to analyze qualitative data. So first, we will know how to record data. So we know that under qualitative research, we will be using techniques of observation, interview, or collecting audiovisual material. So how to collect these materials, how to collect this data, we know. But what to do on field, how to record this data, we will be studying it now. So first is using a protocol to streamline the process. By that, we mean that first, a researcher should have a fair idea as to how to progress about the conducting the interviews or observation or collecting this audiovisual material. For example, a researcher, if the research is to analyze graffiti on the walls, he will identify certain spaces within the city or within the area to gather this information and proceed accordingly. So there needs to be a fair idea that the researcher has, a certain protocol that needs to be followed to ensure that the data is as identical in collection as possible. So the technique of collection shouldn't vary as much or to vary to a degree that it impacts the data collection itself. So they're using a protocol, a certain formality as such, will ensure that the data that is being recorded is useful. For example, if conducting interviews for a person might need demographic details of that person, his age, his caste, his gender, all these things will be required and it will give a certain standardization to the data that is being collected. So using a protocol ensures that there is a standard format in which the data is collected. For example, even while studying the graffiti on the wall, a standard format of collecting these pictures, these graffitis will ensure that the data that is being collected is of a very standardized level. While example, while collecting graffiti on the walls, collection during the day or during the night, one needs to have a certain uniformity in that. For example, if during the day the graffiti pictures are being clicked, one might see the artist or one might not. But if the researcher finds that the artist is present at night, he will try to take pictures of the graffiti or try to uh, collect that data during a certain time of the day. So this ensures that there's a standardization in collection of data. It also involves creating reflective notes. So because qualitative research also focuses on the researcher's participation in the entire process, how he is perceiving the setting around him, how he's perceiving the data that is being collected, he will have certain reflections about it. He will have certain reflections that cannot be recorded later on because it requires immediate presence of mind. So he will try to keep, say, a book handy or a notebook handy to document his perceptions or his thoughts at the moment, so as to ensure that the data that is being analyzed later on has a certain understanding to fall back on, has a certain context that the researcher may have given it during that moment. So one can analyze that reflective notes as well later on, and it becomes very useful to the researcher to identify certain patterns to be reflexive in the process of research itself. Second is recording information while interviewing. So, recording the information in qualitative analysis or qualitative data recording methods, the researcher will be on field. He will be observing or taking interviews or conducting these interviews with participants. And one can record this information through audio or visual material. So, one can have a camera handy or one can have an audio tape handy, but one also needs to account for contingencies like electricity or battery or being technical issues essentially. So what he will need to do, what the researcher will need to do is to take simultaneous notes as well. If he's relying on notes itself, what the researcher will try to do is that he will assign a certain time now after the question is asked, after the observation is conducted, to document or record these notes by hand. So, in case of unavailability of a camera or audio tape, he will rely on his hand to document the entire process of data collection. And it gives a certain documentation of reflexivity amongst in the process itself. Even if the recorder, if an interview is being conducted using an audio tape, audio recorder, what the researcher might do is still make notes about the interview process so as to document his reflections about the interview. He will simultaneously try to observe the participant, his emotional well being, or the surrounding around him. And that will ensure that the data that is being collected becomes very much valid and accurate and is reliable. And it will ensure interpretation of that data in a very accurate and original way. So this ensures this documentation process on field will ensure that the data that is being collected has context, has a background, and which will help with interpretation later on. So, as the third point says, that appropriateness of the questions and the pauses ensure that the interviewer and the participant have time to respond to the questions that are being asked. The interviewer, on the other hand, will try to ensure that there's a logical flow to the questions that are being asked. There's a certain order that makes that participant comfortable. He becomes comfortable and then ensures that the researcher gets the information that he requires, asking appropriate questions and giving time for the participant to respond. It also becomes a very important part of the process of recording data on field. While questions are being asked, the interviewer giving pause or ensuring that the well-being of the participant is maintained. He will also record the information. He will ascertain the well-being of the participant meanwhile and give certain pause. So, not just asking questions, but giving pauses, giving a certain break in the interview process also becomes very essential in how data is being recorded. Being empathetic towards the participant becomes a natural process of collection of data, ensuring the participant's well-being, safety, the way he's responding, or giving time for the participant to think about his response, to reflect upon his response, add to the questions that are being asked, becomes an important part of how data is being collected. And this data will certainly give context, be more meaningful in the research process. So it becomes a very, very important part of how to record data when on field. So, lastly, it is acknowledging the participant's effort. So, the participant is giving the researcher his or her time and effort and a certain consent to be part of that process of research. So it should be acknowledged. A researcher will end the interview or will try to collect the data and then acknowledge the effort that the participant has taken to give or provide this information, more sometimes at the cost of their own safety or at the cost of their time. So this ensures that the researcher is very much aware of the time and the effort that the participant has undertaken, and it makes the participant comfortable enough to share information when required next time. If there's an information that the participant wishes to share pertaining to the research topic with the researcher, he will or she will be able to do so, because he knows that the researcher is aware of his time and effort and will ensure that the information that is being collected is collected with gratitude and with acknowledgement of the effort of the participant. Third, it is creating a log of collected information. So while information is being collected on field by the researcher, what needs to be done is, as information or as data is being collected, it needs to be categorized in a certain way. There needs to be a log of what data has been collected during the time frame given to the researcher, during the time frame the researcher was in field collecting this data. from how many people, from who else he collected, from the places he visited, from all these things needs to be put in a log format, where there needs to be a very accurate and good documentation of all the things that the researcher may have collected during the period that is allotted to him. This involves collection of audiovisual material or even internet, for example. So if the researcher accesses the website or accesses certain social media on a certain day at a certain time, he needs to log that information, because that information may not be available later on. But there needs to be a documentation as to give validity and reliability to the research, to say that this information was collected on this date where the information was available. The researcher will also try to collect, document the people he may have interviewed, the settings he may have observed in under that day, and he will try to correlate it to certain events or certain situations. So that log becomes another context, another background, to ensure that the data that is being recorded and interpreted later on has a certain context to it, gives certain accuracy to the interpretation of data later on, and hence that log needs to be created. Another benefit of creating a log is that misplaced information can be ascertained after a certain time, because under qualitative research, the amount of data that is being collected for any purpose is usually in massive in number. It is very dense. It requires a lot of documentation. It requires a lot of sources. So to create a certain system to identify which data was created or collected at certain time, and to identify if certain data is misplaced or if certain data needs to be collected again due to certain contingencies, a log of the data that is being collected is required, and it becomes very helpful part of the research process itself. Now we will begin with how to begin with an analysis. So after the data is collected, what processes one needs to go through to ensure that interpretation or analysis of the data later on is done with a validity and reliability. So the first is that the researcher can streamline the data while collecting information. As mentioned before, while the research is being conducted, while the data is being gathered, the researcher will start to identify certain patterns or themes in his research, according to which he can streamline the data, he can collect the data. For example, if a researcher is collecting information about gender and education, for example, he's seeing the literacy rates within girls of certain socioeconomic background, he will try to collect the data and then put that data or those documents under certain headings, under certain headings or themes that are easily identifiable. For example, according to gender, according to caste, according to the level of education. So while collecting data, he can just add on to these documents, ensure that the process is systemized for later analysis. Second is winnowing dense data into themes. As mentioned before, qualitative analysis requires a lot of information, a lot of in depth information, and it becomes a very dense document all by itself. So, to ensure that there's a very systematic, standardized way of analyzing the data, what is done by the researcher is to reduce or to aggregate that data into certain headings itself or certain codes. For example, in an interview, the participant may not stick to the question that is being asked, will usually give some unrelated information to the question that needs to be removed from the context, from the purpose of the research, because it will just add on to the way, it will just add time to the research process itself. It will become harrowing for the researcher to go through that much data and to include it into the research that is not pertaining to the topic itself. So what the researcher will do after collection of data is to try to identify themes, to remove the irrelevant parts, to aggregate certain parts of the information under certain themes or codes or heading, and then he will or she will try to analyze the data. He will essentially, the researcher will try to categorize the data in a way to ensure that there is a systematic way, a condensed way of identifying certain patterns in the data he has collected. Third is coding. So, coding becomes a very important part of qualitative analysis, where uh, you can identify themes or you assign certain codes to certain narratives that are being established in the data that you have collected. For example, in an interview or in the newspaper articles that are collected, the researcher will try to assign a certain code to the content. For example, if a newspaper is talking about the rising crimes against gender, that become a code is assigned for that. A researcher will try to assign a code that will be reflective of the rising violence against or rising crimes against a certain gender. So he will assign a code to it, and that code will ensure that lot of data can be categorized under that certain code, and that code can also be formed using hand, which is going through each of those documents or interviews or data that is being collected and assigning these codes. Or one can also use computer software like NVivo, Atlas, and Maxda. So these softwares are usually very simplifies the process of coding itself, and they run these programs all by and conducts these coding and analysis all by themselves. For example, a computer software like NVivo uses one can assign codes, one can tell the software to identify certain codes reflective of the narrative that is being established. For example, if one researcher has assigned a code, for example, gender, then the software will analyze all the words symbolic of gender or words related to gender, and then it will include that information under that code. So, using computer softwares has become very easy and a good way of conducting qualitative research. Now we will see the steps in analysis of the research. We will begin from bottom up. So first we collect raw data, that is transcripts, field notes, images, audio visuals, all the forms or documents that have been collected, and that raw data becomes our entire source of the research. It becomes a very essential part of the research, from where we can now segregate it into a certain category. We can tabularize it, we can codify it, and then analyze it. So the first step of the analysis becomes collating all this data. We collect all the raw information, keep it together, and now we begin the process of identifying certain patterns in it, organizing it under certain headings as the research process is going on. So this becomes the first part of analysis, where we just gather the data, and secondly, we try to organize it under certain themes. So certain generalized themes that we have identified during our research process. So organizing and preparing the data for analysis to ensure that the data that is being analyzed has a systematic and standardized process becomes the second step of analysis. So to ensure that there's a standardized process, what we can do is organize that data in certain formats. For example, if a researcher has used multiple sources of data, if a researcher has conducted interviews, conducted observations, collected certain audiovisual material, collected photographic evidences or newspaper articles, now is the time to divide it within those sectors, that these documents are from the interview schedule, certain documents are from observation, these are newspaper articles related to the research, or these are the photographs that needs to be utilized. So there will be a very basic organization happening at the second stage. Then the third is that reading through all the data. Now that the data has been roughly categorized, one will need to read all the data to be able to identify the relevant and irrelevant parts, to identify certain nuances that are emerging, certain patterns that we can usually see after going through the data. So, reading through all the data is essential. Even if it's relevant or irrelevant, one needs to read it first to one needs to read it and identify it first to ensure that it is, if it's relevant, to conduct the test of relevancy or not. So the third step is to read through all the data. Then comes the coding part, because now that you have read all the information, all the data that you have collected, what becomes essential is assigning certain codes to them. So for example, if you're using a computer software and you're giving a certain code, that code will pull up not just the documented information but even the pictures as well, because even the pictures get a code, or the sound that you have collected or the video that you have collected, they get codified. So you can codify all these audiovisual materials as well, and under that code, it will be visible. So you can collect all these things under that code. So, for example, if you see gender is one of the codes, all the material relevant to gender will be used under that code, will be visible under that code. And if you're correlating it with another code, it becomes altogether much more easier to analyze it. For example, if you're correlating the code about gender to say literacy or to education, you will be able to simultaneously analyze or compare the codes, and hence because the data is contained within it, so you will be able to identify patterns and themes, and that becomes your next stage, where coding of the data helps you, the researcher, establish themes and descriptions. So themes are in general a large generalized way of or signifying the code itself. So it becomes a theme. The theme is prevalent throughout your research. So the data you're collecting with a certain intent, while you're collecting the data for the purpose of your study, a certain theme emerges that you may have, as a researcher, accounted for, or maybe it may be unaccounted for. So a theme emerges and it will help you analyze the data bit better. So for example, if you're conducting a longitudinal study, which when the data is collected over a certain period of time, a theme emerges that a certain thing was present before, or maybe it's present now, or it is undergoing a change. So that becomes a theme of the research itself, and this theme will be utilized in analyzing the research. So now then the process is to interrelate themes or descriptions. So the descriptions becomes part of the theme itself, because it gives context to what the theme is establishing. Interrelating or comparing these themes will give you the analysis that you require for your research project, and examples such as grounded theory or case study. So themes usually help you identify the method of qualitative analysis. So, in example, grounded theory method, a person will try to establish a theory before he or she collects the data. So, a theme that has emerged from the data will substantiate to the theory that is being presented, and that becomes the grounded theory method of analysis. Then, once these theories or themes are interrelated, interlinked, we have tried to analyze them. Then, interpreting the meanings and themes becomes an important, like, final step of the analysis, where we have tried to correlate the themes, and now we try to analyze it in a way that makes sense to the purpose of the research. We try to analyze it in a way that the data is suggesting, and this becomes a final step in which the data becomes your conclusion. So interpreting the data, the analysis methods that are being conducted, this becomes part of the conclusion process, and that's how research will tend to go towards fruition, where you where you collect the data, standardize it, you make sure that it's categorized in certain codes. Then these codes will tell you about the emerging themes. These themes will tell you about descriptions under these themes, and these descriptions will help you compare it with certain objective of the research, and hence that interpretation will follow. And after all this process is being done in analysis, what will be important as the next step would be validating the accuracy of the information, because this process will ensure that there is a standard method itself, right, to conduct this analysis. So it will help you ascertain the validity, that if your information that you have gathered is actually making sense or not, if you require more information or less information. These sort of things can be determined at the later stage, after going through the process of categorization and tabularization and codification. This will ensure that your process of validity will become part of your research process, and then it will make sure that the research itself becomes very reliable in the end. Thank you.